Hey everyone. Okay, I saw this image yesterday, and it says a gut-wrenching surge, and it's talking about norovirus, which is a GI bug that causes vomiting and diarrhea in kids and adults. And you can see, looking back, usually there's a winter peak. There's usually a winter peak because everybody's indoors and around each other, and that's when it tends to happen. But if you look at this graph, you'll see in 2023, February-ish, there was a peak. In 2024, February-ish, there was a peak. In 2025, now we're in 2025, if you can believe that. There's actually an even higher peak that's like more than twice as tall as the other peaks. And so things are bad when it comes to norovirus right now. Not really clear why things are so bad this year. This is actually looking at wastewater samples. So this isn't relying on people going to the doctor, getting tested, or ending up in the hospital. This is taking wastewater samples, which are a good indicator of how much norovirus is out there, and looking at that and saying, wow, there's a lot of norovirus going around right now. Norovirus is a virus that causes vomiting and diarrhea. Typically, it lasts for a couple days. It's usually not so severe that most people end up in the hospital or anything along those lines, but it makes kids and adults miserable. Kids are certainly at risk for dehydration, both on the vomiting side and on the diarrhea side, and it can be really difficult because it spreads from kid to kid. This is the same virus on cruise ships that like shuts down the whole cruise ship, norovirus. Now, contrast that with influenza. Oftentimes we can get these two confused because we call norovirus or viruses that cause vomiting and diarrhea stomach bugs or stomach flu, when really it's two totally different viruses that do this. So the stomach flu is typically norovirus or something along those lines, vomiting, diarrhea. Influenza, which also goes around a lot in the winter and is really also bad right now, causes high fever for 5 to 7 days, body aches, difficulty with breathing, nasal congestion, all those sorts of things. Different bugs, similar names. Stomach flu is just kind of a colloquial name for norovirus and other GI bugs versus influenza, which is the actual flu. Now, when it comes to managing norovirus, I'm known, and our practice is known for being quick to give kids Zofran. Zofran is a safe and effective antiemetic, which means it stops vomiting, and anti-nausea medicine, so it stops nausea, so that kids are able to keep drinking and stay hydrated and stay out of the ER for fluids. There's this old myth that has been disproven many times over now that you have to let the kid keep vomiting to get all of it out. Now, the corollary to that, or the other side of that, is it is true that you should let diarrhea run its course. You shouldn't use anti-diarrhea medicine in kids or adults with GI bugs because it can prolong and it can make them have increased risk of more complications from stopping the diarrhea. You should let it out on that end. But it is not true. There's plenty of research and literature that shows that stopping vomiting does not prolong illness, and it actually keeps kids hydrated and feeling better and eating and healing their guts by eating real food and drinking, water or other hydration liquids that we'll talk about in just a minute. And so you don't have to feel like you have to just tough it out when it comes to vomiting. So another thing that people say is, well, how do you know, like if there's 3 kids in daycare that all have vomiting and your kid comes home and starts vomiting, like it's not like they have a hidden case of appendicitis. They probably have the same thing that all their friends have, which is a highly infectious virus that causes vomiting and diarrhea. And so we're quick to give Zofran out so that our families can get more peace. I always take some with me on vacation just because I know that somebody's going to get sick on vacation, and then we don't have to try and find care or anything along those lines. So we're really quick to jump on Zofran, watch for hydration. Now, keeping kids hydrated is another important thing to focus in on. And what we know is that Pedialyte is fine, and drinks like that, electrolyte solutions are fine like that. They often don't taste good. You don't have them at home. They're expensive. And so what I typically tell people to do is make sure that you have some apple juice just in the pantry on a shelf or something like that. And what you do with the apple juice is you cut it in half. So you do half apple juice, half water, and that works great as a hydration tool. There's plenty of studies that show that using did I say applesauce? I meant apple juice. If I've been saying applesauce, I mean apple juice. Half strength apple juice works great for keeping kids hydrated. There's plenty of studies that show that it is just as effective as any of those oral rehydration fluids. So as winter approaches, you might just get some apple juice, put it on a shelf so nobody sees it, but then know if my kid starts having vomiting or diarrhea, this is something that I can turn to. Now, if they're under 6 months of age, obviously you're going to talk to your doctor. If they're getting more serious vomiting or diarrhea issues, obviously you're going to talk to the doctor. This is just what we do in our practice, and I just wanted to share that. Now, we're going to stop vomiting with Zofran if we want, and if we're able to, or if your doctor will prescribe it. Diarrhea needs to run its course, but what you can do to help firm up the stools a little bit more quickly is green bananas, like the unripe bananas that nobody wants to eat. Those actually have pectin sugars in them that help to firm up stools more quickly. And there's studies that show, especially in countries around the world that have endemic gastroenteritis, like different viruses and protozoa and bacteria that will cause persistent diarrhea, that actually green bananas, the sugars in those will help to firm up stools. So that is a strategy for firming up stools, is trying to get your kid to eat some green bananas. Otherwise, it just needs to run its course. Now, the last thing to know about norovirus is hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer, everybody loves hand sanitizer because it's easy. You can keep it in your diaper bag. You can keep it in the car. You can keep it everywhere. Norovirus is an encapsulated virus, which from a molecular standpoint makes it resistant to hand sanitizer. And so hand sanitizer doesn't work to stop the spread of norovirus. And norovirus is super contagious. And so what you want to do is you want to use warm soap and water instead of hand sanitizer, specifically for norovirus. If you're around people that have norovirus, if you're around somebody that's vomiting or diarrhea or something like that, don't just rely on hand sanitizer. Use warm soapy water to wash your hands several times per day to try and keep it at bay. Like I said, norovirus is super contagious, though. There have been studies and literature that shows that even if somebody, like they're on an airplane and they vomit in the bathroom of the airplane, that norovirus from the act of the vomiting will spread through the air and people around the bathroom will get sick. So it's very contagious. It's very difficult to control. Luckily for most people, it is frustrating, gross, painful, unpleasant for sure, but the majority of people that get it don't end up in the hospital or those sorts of things. Hopefully this video has helped give you some ways to manage norovirus, avoid norovirus, and avoid all those other bugs, especially with how bad it is this year. Keep up the good work.